Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about how, as we start this historical fiction unit, historical fiction is a special genre. And we know that even though it reads like a fiction story and has that story feel to it, it's based on true events that have actually happened in history. So today we're just going to be talking about things that we find in historical fiction. Sometimes they're always there, and other times they're often there, but we can't say they're always found in our historical fiction books. If you look on the screen, I'm going to be talking about our anchor chart here to talk about what we're going to be looking for as we read historical fiction. So you'll notice that historical fiction books always are stories that are imagined, but they take place in the real world. They have characters, a plot, and setting, and they follow the narrative structure that we've talked so much about this year. And finally, the stories focus on problems and issues of life in the past, meaning historical events or issues people in our world have faced in the past. Now, the next things we're going to talk about are often found in historical fiction, but we can't say they always are. Usually, the characters, the plot, and the setting are believable. The stories are often based on real people or events from the past, but sometimes the characters are made up. The stories are often connected to the author's own personal experiences, but not always. Sometimes they might be talking from another person's perspective, or maybe even they're just really interested in that period of time in history, so they decided to write that story. And authors often use the language of the time in the dialogue, which we'll talk about in a later mini lesson. Today, what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about Rose Blanche, the story that you just listened to on your read aloud. And we're just going to jot down a couple things that we notice truly make Rose Blanche a historical fiction book. As we read, we can tell that there's a character. We have the character Rose Blanche, and I'm just going to be adding this in on my sticky note so that we can see what I would jot if I had been writing this down on a sticky note in front of you. So we have our character Rose Blanche, and the story follows the narrative structure. We know there's a setting to the story, and we can tell that there's a plot with a real problem for her. Right, this is new to me, so you'll see sometimes I make typos too. Another thing that we notice about Rose Blanche as you really start to read and continue on and you think about how the setting is changing from the beginning to the middle, you can tell that it's really focusing on problems and issues of life in the past. We can tell that war is coming to Rose Blanche's town and where she is. And so we're really seeing the impact of that life issue in the past through this story. So I'm just going to jot down that we know her problem is based on real issues from the past. For example, war coming to her town. And finally, one of the other things that we notice for sure that makes this historical fiction is when we think about the story being imagined but taking place in the real world, oftentimes we can think of things that we have a connection to. For example, we know that war is coming, but we also know, based on a part of the story where she sees the children, that this is taking time during the Holocaust, which was also a real event that happened in the world, and it was a very real part of our world. As you can see here, today I was just trying to make connections to how we know the story Rose Blanche was historical fiction. And that's what you guys will be doing today as you get into your I Survived book. So as you start to open your book and read your very first chapter, so exciting, I'd like you just to take some time and just jot some thoughts down that show that you know you're reading historical fiction. Don't forget to use this anchor chart to help you as well.